All right. So I just went through the process, and this is for the sake of the video, everyone. I just went through the process of explaining what our assignment is going to be. And for those of you who are not here today and watching this online, I'll have images and stuff that you guys can access. You can email me for them of the requirements for the drawings, and I'll go over it again in class on Wednesday. But essentially, we are creating a single-family house. It's a mountain retreat on the landscape of Mount Whitney. It's scaled down for, applicability, but it's a very basic exercise of a simple residence on a very not simple site. So where we are going to begin is actually analyzing this site to place our building somewhere along the contours of the hillside. So the folks here in class have requested that I show you how to actually get a physical site, and so we're gonna do that. To do that, basically what I did was create a mesh off. Well, it's a developable surface that was created off of a mesh that I got from Google Earth, and so that looks a little bit something like this. It's actually in SketchUp. All right. So you guys should open up SketchUp.
Just regular SketchUp or SketchUp Designer 2013? Oh, that's Sketchbook.
I don't know. There are so many different versions of SketchUp anymore, I'm not sure. I just typed in SketchUp down here.
Oh.
Yeah. So mine is just SketchUp Make. I think SketchUp Make is the free version. They've changed names recently, but I think it's the free version. What's that? Feet and inches. Yeah. Simple feet and inches you should choose. So if you guys don't know how to use SketchUp, I'll give you the very quick and dirty version here. If you hold down the middle mouse button, that's your orbit. And you can see that it has a very different kind of orbit because the orbit is not centered around the mouse on screen as a center point. It's kind of referential to wherever the model is, unless you rotate immediately on some particular element. It's a little bit weird. To pan, I believe you have to hold Shift and middle mouse. And that's really all you need to know at that point. And then the scrolling in and out is the same. That's all you really need at that. So to get the landscape, SketchUp has a pretty cool feature called Geolocation. And Geolocation allows you to access Google Earth. And so you can type in an address, intersection, or landmark. I did Mount Whitney. And it brought me to the peak of Mount Whitney.
What was it, the application?
I'll show you again. It's under File, Geolocation, Add Location. So you can type in anywhere. I typed in Mount Whitney, so it brought me to the peak of Mount Whitney. And as you scroll out, you'll see this white box. The white box is the crop boundary for the maximum size that it can import into your file at once. So if you left click and just drag, you can kind of move this around and place it how you'd like to place it. And then when you're done and you're satisfied with the selection that you want, hit the select region button in the top right corner. And you can change it even more if you'd like. But if you're zoomed out past that white box, that's the maximum you can go. And then you click grad. And this is what it's going to look like. And see how small this tiny little person is? It comes in the actual scale. So what you were seeing on screen, that person is essentially that small on the peak of Mount Whitney.
Mine doesn't work.
Mine doesn't work either.
You guys don't have it?
It's slow, yeah.
No, but mine is kind of like over it. Close it.
Interesting.
You should buy it again.
That's weird. I will talk to Mason about that. There should be licenses for everything. But if you don't have a license, do other systems have a license?
I just put agree on
Yeah.
mine.
No, then after they open it and then I was working, they close it.
Oh, weird. Try a new system and let me know if it gives you trouble. So anyway, even if you can't do it here, this is good access for later on at home. When you have it, you can do it this way. So the other thing that's pretty cool about this is that while it looks flat right now, if you look at it this way, that's really just a representation. And when you go under geolocation again, you can do show terrain. And it changes it to a mesh map. File, geolocation, show terrain. So our little dude up here is at the peak of Mount Whitney, and if he was to step on the edge right here, he would probably die, right? Because he's like right on the edge. That's a lonely place to be. Anyway, so once you get to that point, you can essentially just export this as, let's see, you go to export, 3D model. Well, let's delete our dude. I don't want him to go with it, so I'll select him and delete it. Select that. Let's see, export 3D model. So, weird. That's weird. Hold on. Save as. Oh, we might not be able to export it as a proper file type. I've never used these file types, but I could try it. So I'll try whatever a collada file is. I'm just going to drop it on the desktop for now.
Should we save before we try to export?
Yes, you probably should. I'm going to try it without it. Alright, so I'm going to do a new instance of Rhino. And I'm going to try to import that file. So desktop. Doesn't look like it's compatible. I'll try insert. No. Okay. Alright, well, it doesn't look like it's going to allow me to actually export with SketchUp Make, which is the free version. But if you get the full version, or if you get SketchUp 7 or 8, which is the last full version that was available for free, you can export it as either an OBJ, which is an object file. It's a generic three-dimensional model file, or an FBX file. I don't know what FBX stands for, but it's very similar in its behavior. And what you'll get is a file that looks like this. Essentially what you'll get is this one. And so this one comes through as a big group, and you just have to ungroup it and explode it, and it essentially creates singular meshes. And so with display on, it looks like this. And that's a triangulation. Okay, so all it does is it breaks that whole geometry down into triangulated panels, and then creates surfaces off of them. After you break that down into curves, when you explode it, you can then extrapolate all the points from those curves, right? That's kind of like the whole process, right? So you go from surface to curve to points, and you break it down, and then, and this one might crash me. I need to make sure that I've gotten rid of all the duplicates. So there's 2675. I'll try SELDUP to see if there are any duplicates. No, there are not. And then you can select this, and there are a few ways of creating surfaces off of points. You can do Where was that one? Let's see. Fit plane through points. You can try surface from point grid or from control point grid, or you can do a pretty dynamic one, which is called patch. Patch will find the average surface among points. So if I do, and patch I just like because it's got some cool features to it. You can change the density of the spans that it's going to calculate, and then you can change how stiff it will actually be to the points themselves. So a 0 will essentially recreate your mesh because it's going to triangulate exactly to every point. So this is just the generic setting here. And what it gives you is, like I said, an average. So not all the points are going to be exactly on the surface. So I'll try that again. And one of the things that you do to get it exactly right, or as close to, oops. You can increase the spans. So I'm going to go to 20 and 20. And the stiffness, I think you go lower. 0.2. Let's try that. I could have that backwards though. That's a little better. Okay, so this one isn't perfect. It's actually a little bit softer, which is kind of nice. And, you know, so essentially you play around with those settings, you get it as close as you need for your purposes, and then you can get rid of all the points or just move this thing over, and you've got yourself a developable surface. The other thing that you will have to do is just make sure you cut off, because remember when this is over here, you have excess. It's like you put it in a stamping press where all that excess, you know, like the edges of the paper are just kind of folded up. You need to trim all that off. So I just wanted to show you that as a process. I do have other videos available where it shows the whole export out of SketchUp part 2 on the drive if you wanted to see those. Or I'm sure, I believe I have a YouTube video on the ARC 222 class playlist that you might be able to look at.
Could you explain really quickly why you can't just use the first one? Because you said it goes from surface to curved to point, and then
This one?
yeah, like you're making a new surface, right? So how come
Yeah,
you can't just use that one?
because I want one surface, not 100,000 surfaces. That way, I'll show you why, essentially. Because right now, if I'm going to try and cut the contours on this, then it's going to give me individual line segments for all the individual surfaces that it's cutting. And that's a pain in the butt.
But couldn't you just like join all the surfaces together?
Yes, but they're still segments because they're split at a point. They meet at a point, so it's a segment. If it was a developable surface, then it would actually connect at a tangent, and so it would create one spline between the two. Does that make sense? Basically, what that means is anytime you have a polyline, right, that meets at a point, even if they're curved, right? If I have one that goes here, and then another one that goes there, and another one that goes there. Those are line segments. You can explode it, and it will explode into individual either arcs or lines or whatever. With a spline, if you create a smooth surface, there is nowhere that you can explode that. And there's no way for that to break into individual pieces. Unless you put something there and cut it. You'll see a little bit why that's valuable in the next step.
So it was kind of, sorry, I'm like so behind. It's going to be export 3D model
From SketchUp?
Yep.
You have that available to you? Export
yeah,
3DM?
Is it 3D, right?
3DM?
3D, export 3D model?
No, he couldn't export it. That's what he was asking.
So
He
what
couldn't
do you do?
export it from.
Mine could not. If yours can, I'm
No,
curious.
I can, so what we should do?
I can.
Wow, interesting. So yeah, you would export it as either an OBJ or an FBX, or if you have the availability to export it as a .3DM, that's a Rhino file.
DAE and KMZ.
Yeah. So those are my two choices too, and you can't use those directly. So we'll have to figure out some kind of workaround for that. I thought that Mason had that worked out. But anyway, you know that you can do it. When you go off and you try and do it on your own, I've provided the file for you this time, but when you go off and you do it on your own, you know it's there. All you have to do is just get the full version or something like that. Okay? So what questions do you have? What other questions do you have about this for that step?
Because I cannot bring it over there and see all
Yeah.
of these. So.
Well, I mean, essentially, when you bring it in, it's just going to be this. But it's going to be grouped. That's all. Yeah. I'll try and find a video for you for that one.